Fat is not created or all equal. While most people are concerned with how much fat they have under their skin, the subcutaneous fat, the more important fat metabolically is the visceral fat around our inner organs. This is how our organs should look like, and this is what happens if we have too much fat around the inner organs. That's called the visceral fat. A study that has just been published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition has looked at the differences between the visceral and subcutaneous fat and the metabolic maps. The researchers took samples, paired samples from visceral and subcutaneous adipose tissue from 17 overweight people who were undergoing surgery, and they did detailed lipid metabolic mapping. What they found out was pretty fascinating. They found out that there were major differences between visceral and subcutaneous fat. We can see in colors here, visceral fat around the inner organs is in red, and the subcutaneous fat is blue. So we can see that there are major differences in many components. So the subcutaneous fat had higher accumulation of phosphatidylcholines, tri and diacylglycerols, but lower concentrations of ceramides, and the unsaturated fatty acid content was lower in the visceral fat. What does it mean in practical terms? That means if you're consuming olive oil or nuts, these are more likely to be stored under your skin. But if you're eating a lot of meat and dairy and eggs, these are more likely to be stored in your visceral fat around your inner organs. This is a summary slide showing that in the fat under our skin, in the subcutaneous fat, there's a high concentration of phosphatidylcholines, tri and diacylglycerols, lower concentrations of ceramides, and in visceral fat, there's a higher concentration of ceramides, but lower prevalence of unsaturated fatty acids. So what does it mean in practical terms? First of all, if you care about your waistline, it's a good idea to limit your fat intake in general, but you need to limit some of the fats more than others. Which are the fats that you need to be concerned with the most? It's the saturated fat coming from meat, dairy, especially cheese, but also eggs, and tropical oils such as coconut oil or palm oil. And I'd like to know, what are your strategies? Do you have any recipes that allow you to cut down on these fats? Are you able to use healthy sources of fat in your diet? I'd like to hear your story. Please post them below.